and welcome to the SMART Recovery Podcast, where we offer thoughtful conversation about a variety of recovery topics. You'll hear self-empowering and science-based approaches to making changes toward a healthier and more satisfying lifestyle and building a life beyond addiction. Our mission is for every podcast to provide you with the information and resources you need to guide your own successful recovery journey. If you or someone you know needs addiction-related help, we encourage you to visit smartrecovery.org, where you will find practical tools, connections to support group meetings, and links for additional resources. Remember that the purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care from a doctor or other qualified addiction professionals. Before making any changes in your treatment plan, please discuss your thoughts with your medical provider. Now sit back and enjoy today's Smart Recovery Podcast.
Welcome to the Smart Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Frazier. Today on the program, my guest is Dre Richards. He's a Smart Recovery Facilitator based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. He's also the Executive Director and founder of Healthy Aligned Living, which is a nonprofit focused on youth empowerment and support for individuals impacted by mental health and addiction. The agency refers to itself as a place where honesty, healing, and hope live together, which sounds like a great combination to me. Dre Richards, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here today. I'm very excited to share my story. Smart Recovery, if I didn't have SMART, I don't know where I would be today.
That's quite a testimony. I think we can probably just end the podcast right there. So, we do want to definitely get into your sober journey and your work with Healthy Aligned Living, and some of the things that you do in the grassroots kind of approaches that you take. So why don't we start and just tell me a little bit about your sober journey and what has brought you to kind of where you are today and as a Smart Recovery Facilitator?
All right, so I'll try to get about 20 years in a few minutes here. But basically, at the time when everything started, I was living in Ontario. So anywhere from Toronto to Hamilton, Brampton, Kitchener-Waterloo. I know all of Ontario. That's my home. I love it. I miss it. And, through my schooling, I was on my way to law school. And, I was on the board of governors. I was on a team of directors for students. I was working as a youth support worker, and I was doing good. My journey was with alcohol. So at the time, it was more like fun. Then it was fun and problem. Then it was problem. Mm-hmm. But while I was in the problem stage, I still thought I was in the fun stage, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I started, getting into drinking more and, missing work and, maybe not showing up to class on time. But what really took a spin, where it really got really bad, is when my sister passed away. So when my sister passed, I lost friends in life, but for some reason, when I lost my sister, it was almost comparable to like losing my mom in a sense, right? And I just noticed the drinking was getting out of hand. It was morning, lunch, afternoon, wake up. Now I'm not just missing days of work. I'm missing a week, a month, and I just didn't know what to do. I would stop for a month here and there. And then I thought I was okay. And then, just one drink won't hurt. And then here I am. So I just didn't understand the behavior. Right. Yeah. So let
me just interrupt you for a second and say that, as you describe that progression and how, sometimes we're not able to see for ourselves how much the progression's happening, or even if we do, because I think you just said, you knew you were kind of in trouble in some kind of way. But even when we realize that, that's not enough. We don't have tools. We don't have a way to address the challenge or the issue. And it just can keep spiraling. So I'm just noting that, that can be other people's kind of, I'm sure can relate to that.
Yeah, 100%. And, at this time, I didn't know anything about withdrawal and addiction as much as I do today. So I just thought it was fun. We're just going to wake up 9 a.m. at the liquor store. I just thought that was cool. But little did I know the brain was actually developing a bond with the substance. But in my mind, I just thought it was cool, you know? And so it got to a point where I started, getting to nights where I was sweating, throwing up. And I was like, what the hell is this? Like, what's going on here? And then now I found out about alcohol withdrawal, and I'm like, there's a what? I was like, okay. So, I just went through a rough time, and through the death of everything, fast forward, I came to Alberta, through the help of my mom and my dad and family. And I was just like, maybe I need to go to a Buddhist temple. Maybe I need to go to China or something, because I didn't understand why I was waking up every morning and the first thing on my mind was liquor, before I could just wake up and picture as a child, you wake up and the first thing on your mind was maybe you're going to challenge somebody at marbles, or maybe you're going to play duck, duck, goose, but now it's just vodka.
Wow. Yeah, mine would be thinking of cartoons and Captain Crunch.
Right?
But right, I mean, something totally different than all of a sudden, kind of an obsession with a substance, and regardless of the consequences, because it sounds like you were starting to have some consequences if you're missing work, skipping classes, changing your goals. I mean, that's sometimes we don't realize that just in the changing of goals is a consequence. Because all of a sudden we're saying, I'm not going to work hard and try to do this over there. That's just too much, and that's a consequence in a real sense.
And it really dawned on me even harder because, with whatever substance we use, whether it's methamphetamines, alcohol, whatever, my choices were a lot different. So here I am realizing that there's a problem, but another half of me is like, man, I should be in law school right now. I should be in nursing school. Like, what's going on with my life? So there's a side of depression, it kicking in, right? And so everybody was cheering for me. Even I got accepted to 3-4 law schools. Like, it wasn't mixing because I'm doing the work by day, and at nighttime I'm like just degenerate person. But in the daytime, I'm putting on the suit. I'm on the council. I'm helping making decisions for the educational system in Ontario. But then at nighttime, I'm chugging back a 26er, So fast.
What's a 26er? I'm not sure what.
Basically, just a big bottle of vodka.
Oh, okay.
Right, just like basically like 26 ounces, or like we call them 26 ounces, 40 ounces. Okay. We've got like a Texas Mickey, So it's just like the bottles are getting bigger and bigger, And now financially, bills aren't getting paid, rent's not getting paid on time, so it's just a bad loophole. So long story short, I come to Alberta, and I thought I got away, but here there's more liquor stores out here than there are coffee shops. So I went really, like, I was good, but then bad. And, I went into a lot of treatment centers. I went into detox. I started like just meeting the wrong crowds. But then one day I sat down with myself and I prayed about it. And I was like, this has got to stop, man. This has got to stop. Because I think I've been to every hospital in Edmonton. They all know me. Like, oh, he's back again. He's dehydrated. He hasn't eaten for weeks, And so long story short, I went into, I said, where can I go that will get me away from alcohol for a long time? Because I knew the behavior. I knew the mind was willing. It was just the behavior, you know? And so I was looking up, flights to China, Africa, and then I found a treatment center that would let you stay for 1 year. Right. And I said, I think I'm going to need 1 year. I don't think 3 months is going to cut it. Definitely not 3 weeks or 6 months. And so I applied, and we did an interview like this over Zoom. And they said to me, we'll get back to you in Christmas, in the new year. And I said, all right, cool. But I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to leave that treatment center and be alone again. But for some reason, within 20 minutes, they called back. They said, would you come today? I said,
Wow.
I'm already packed. Like,
Okay.
let's go. And from there, I did everything necessary. I put up with the rules. I got my life back in order. And the the executive director one day, they said, hey, we got these programs here called Smart Recovery. Would you like to start taking the classes? So it's either like you can take the classes or choose a chore, right? So like, yeah, I'll take the Smart Recovery.
Well, you know what? Hey, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with choosing the education piece of that. But let me interrupt for a second there and talk about, you talk about that behavior, and knowing that the behavior was getting out of control, and whether it was alcohol or, Smart Recovery, of course, doesn't distinguish. It could be a problem with activities or behavior, could be substances, but it's that compulsion. It's that, I don't know that I can do anything about this without some help. At some point you realize that, and you knew that you needed to be out of a certain environment. But as you probably realized, Dre, the fact of taking a flight to China, you're still going to bring yourself there. And that's where the mutual support comes in, I think, and we'll probably get into this, but that's why a Smart Recovery or other pathways to recovery that offer support for the individual, so we're not alone. We're not going through it alone. I myself am in recovery, been in recovery for 20 years, and yeah, I still need the support that I get from pathways. So that's just it's very good to hear, and I just wanted to point out that whether it was alcohol in your case or many other behaviors or substances, when you really reach that point of saying, this is out of hand, this is out of control, and you knew what to do, you said, I got to get some help.
Yeah, and I knew it. I knew it for some of us, we don't recognize, I come from, my schooling before law school. I was into a lot of psychology. I was into a lot of behavior therapy and stuff like that. So I was able to recognize for myself. But there are some people out there that they are where I'm at right now. They see the behavior, but they don't know how to get out of it, right? And this is why I bring Smart Recovery to the city, right? Because some people believe in AA, some people believe in CA, but people don't realize the science behind recovery. It's more than just a circle group, you know?
That's right. And I think that, whatever it is, we definitely support in Smart Recovery, we support multiple pathways. We support people making their own decisions and what goals and what tools they use. And there's people who combine different pathways. They might go to AA and also go to Smart Recovery or use the handbook of Smart Recovery, whatever. But it sounds like that what you brought from that Smart Recovery also, tell me about starting this Healthy Aligned Living and how that came to be.
So basically, when I was in the treatment center and the executive directors, I was doing it, and then some of the facilitators couldn't make it. Like maybe some of them graduated, and they observe and they watch who they think would be good to carry on Smart Recovery. So they reached out to me and they said, hey, we're willing to pay for your course. Would you be interested in doing the Smart Recovery? And it was an honor for me because I was like, oh, you'll pay for my course? I was like, yeah. So doing that and actually being in the forefront now, a lot of the people that were coming into the treatment center were youth, right? And that would be like adolescents as well. And a lot of them were listening and learning and applying the tools that I was facilitating with them. So after I graduated, while I was in there, I'm doing my master's. I went to do my master's at University of Alberta. So I was like, do I need to keep doing my master's? Do I need to keep getting all these diplomas and certificates? So I kind of just I sat down with a few agencies out here and I said, what are the biggest gaps that are in the city? And they said, a lot of youth organizations, there's a lot of gaps with that. So I sat there and I said, I did a little bit of chat GPT and a little questioning, and then that's how Healthy Aligned Living became into fruition, because I just started to, I said, okay, maybe we can't change our ways. Maybe we're stuck in our own ways already because of our upbringing, but we can start with the young generation. We can start with the babies, right? So that's where the organization came into. And I chose Healthy Aligned Living because with Smart Recovery, it's also about your environment. It's about the food you put into your system. It's about going to exercise and just living healthy, right? And so that's why I wanted to bring that to the city. And then I looked online, and a lot of the Smart Recovery classes were taught online. So I said, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to make mine in person, right? So as of right now, we're the only in-person meeting in Edmonton, right?
Okay.
Maybe all of Alberta, I don't know. But so I started out with one person, showing up, and then the next week it was like 5. Then it got so big that we started having to get extra chairs from the other parts. So now we're one of the largest in-person SMART meetings probably in Canada, in person.
Yeah.
Right?
We're talking with Dre Richards. He's a Smart Recovery Facilitator based in Edmonton, Alberta. He's also the co-founder of Healthy Aligned Living. It's a nonprofit focused on youth empowerment. I do like that name, Andre. You were talking about why you chose it. And yeah, point 4 of Smart Recovery in our 4-point program is that, living a balanced life.
Yes.
And that balanced life means, you mentioned, nutrition, exercise, getting together with other people, being social, all those things that make for a really good life. And it sounds like you're providing that opportunity to youth who are coming to see you in person. And whether they're, I don't know, if do you accept all ages more, or is it more oriented towards youth? Or
well, when it's Healthy Aligned Living, we'll do the scope of 14 to 29. But if it's Smart, we'll do 18 and up. But if it's younger, then we would register a separate meeting.
Okay.
To protect the youth of anybody under the age of 18.
Right. And I think, you talk about it being trauma-informed recovery. And, there you are. You lost a significant person in your life. You mentioned your sister, and that really spun you into a negative space. And probably the youth that you work with, just guessing here, but they're bringing a lot of trauma with them when they enter into their recovery. So it's not just about the substances or the behavior. It's also dealing with some of that trauma. How does that happen?
Well, so basically, people really don't know what trauma is. Right? They go through so much things in life, and trauma can happen like a million times in 1 year. It's a traumatic event. You remember it, you might have flashbacks of it. It can happen at any time, but you haven't dealt with the situation. Some people might take medication, or it's like they do Band-Aid procedures. But when we're working with the youth, we're looking at life skills, mentorship, right? Getting them on the right path. So when we say daily habits, that's also developing a daily schedule, right? Where you wake up in the morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., you're going to the gym, you're going to do this at 9, 11 a.m. is this. You don't have time to think about going to the liquor store or negative thoughts or anything like that. You want to develop discipline, right? So the kids, a lot of the youth that come to us, and some of them are homeless, right? We also work with parents, because the parents, sometimes they don't understand and they kick the kids out, right? And that's almost the worst thing you can do, because now you've put the kids in the belly of the beast, in a sense, right? So we work with the youth, and our first youth that came with us, he was 17, homeless, addicted to fentanyl. Right now he's back home. We work with his parents. He's back home getting good grades and no longer on vaping or fentanyl or anything. Okay. So it's just recognizing how to deal with trauma. What is trauma, right? And once we can identify those traumatic events, then we can pinpoint where everything is stemming from, right? So for my instance, I had no idea that the death of my sister was I didn't understand. I didn't know what trauma was. I just thought, oh yeah, that's my sister's died, But we don't understand how much grief can affect us,
Right. And then, and in turn, then, without knowing it's affecting us, we might act out and go sideways in many other ways. So all of a sudden, an event that we're kind of not dealing with becomes its own consequence when it affects the way I relate to the rest of the world and my school and my job and my people around me. And so that's where it can get really, really powerfully negative in a really short amount of time. So, yeah, that's, I mean, it's so true. And, you know, when you talk about trauma informed, it just means what? That you're taking into account that traumatic events have happened, or what does trauma informed mean in this context?
Trauma informed is basically acknowledging and accepting. So there's no like forgiving or forgetting. It's about acceptance.
Okay.
Right? And whatever that trauma might be, it could be a bad relationship, it could have been a job loss, but learning how to move forward, right? And realizing that, you know, it's not the end of the world, you know, like we can't dwell on these things, but we can change our future.
Yeah. So it's the acceptance. That's so true that, you know, because I think part of what can happen is we stuff our feelings about traumatic events. I mean, I've also lost people and as a child or, very, 7 or 8 years old. And yeah, you don't know how to process it. And if you don't have parents or a community that's there supporting you to process it, you just bury it.
Yes.
And then it can come out in different ways. Yeah. So you've mentioned this idea that, you know, working with youth who may be homeless or may have come out of really bad situations. So it's dealing with them where they are. Is that what you mean by grassroots work? I mean, what does grassroots work mean in this context, Dre?
So basically grassroots is in a sense of we're not doing things conventionally. We're not here to abide by the regulations in a sense. We're here to meet. We're like peer led. We're peer led. We're here to support you. We're not here. You're not a number. You know, we see you as a person. And, you know, when people are getting housed or people are going through poverty, no one takes the time to really figure out why. It's more like here's a 2-bedroom. Here's some food. Good luck. And not realizing, you know, where does the behavior come from? Mm-hmm. Is it their environment? You know, is it their people is it their association with people? So grassroots just basically means we're here in a sense for the community with or without, you know, the regulation, without being incorporated in a sense. Yeah.
Okay.
We are a community of friends. So you can call me and you can come to my house and we can talk. We are people. You don't gotta make an appointment, come to my office, and you know we're unconventional. Right.
So it sounds like you're really lowering the barriers to getting help and to approaching you, making it easy to approach. You know, it doesn't sound like it would be intimidating to come and talk to Dre or other people at Healthy Aligned Living. You know, I mean, you're welcoming, you're friendly. And you mentioned that stress on acceptance of trauma or acceptance of circumstances. I mean, boy, when someone knows that they can come to a place and they can be accepted, you know, then it doesn't add into their feelings of disconnection. It actually adds to their feelings of connection.
Right, because there's also a few factors involved, right? There's acceptance, but then we've got to look at shame, guilt, culture, right? A lot of cultures will hide a lot of these things, right? So it's meaning it's like adapting to who we're working with, right? Empowering them with the tools so that they can use it on their own accord, right? So I always say, I'm just a facilitator. I'm no better than you. I'm also doing my best, you know? Mm-hmm. And basically, you know, we have people right now that have come into, like we'll tie in Healthy Aligned Living. So let's say you come in for housing or you're having problems with this or that. We have the connections. So we've teamed up with people on a one-on-one basis that work in these industries. But now let's say you are needing help with, let's say SMART, right? You come on in and there's people, when I first met them, they were a wreck. Now they look back and they've sent testimonials already, and they've thanked us. Thank you so much. I've been able to spend time with my daughter, or I've been able to find a job. So it's like a hub of everything, right? So you can come. If you need food, we've got it. We've got the connections. If you need help with resume building, financial literacy, we start from the grassroots, but we want to kind of focus with the youth, because, you ever seen that commercial or that video where you have like a bad strawberry or a bad orange, and you put it beside the good fruit, and if the good fruit touches the bad fruit, it can kind of rub off, right? So we kind of want to start with the youth because they're fresh. They don't know society yet, right? We can't save everybody, but we're going to start with the younger generation.
Okay,
right?
so you can have perhaps more of an impact,
right?
Lasting impact. But you mentioned culture, Dre. I mean, and also I know that Healthy Aligned Living tries to get into the growing of smart recovery and this your kind of work in diverse and underserved communities. What does that mean for you and for your organization?
For working with underdeserved cultures,
underdeserved communities or diverse cultures.
So we basically, you come to us. We're like we kind of want to have to. There's something you kind of want to have to do, like It's sad to say, many people, not even sad, sorry. Many people will come and ask for help, and then you may not see them ever again for like a year, right? So we kind of work with the individuals that want it, right? So if you come into SMART, I'm gauging the room as well, right? So if there's a SMART meeting, which tool, I'll listen to the room, which tools is best for this. Out of the 14 tools, which one do I want to go with today? And maybe I'll pick one beforehand, or maybe I'll listen to the room and see what we're working with. But culture, we want to be careful because there's a stigma around certain cultures when it comes with addiction, right? And letting them know it's okay to be open. It's okay, to let be free or let it go in a sense,
So you're saying that with certain cultures, even just talking about things like addiction and problems and challenges is more difficult.
Yes, because a lot of things are kept within the families, kept within the home, and if somebody reaches out within a certain culture, they might be demonized for it. They might be outcasted, right? I've had a lot of friends come and say, "Hey, can you talk to my son one-on-one? But I don't know if we should bring him to the meeting because I don't want the world to know," or whatever, right? So there's many ways I address it, but there's a lot of culture involved. And, one of the biggest cultures, or, not necessarily culture, but families, are with Indigenous, right? When we get into the Indigenous cultures, there's a big stigma and guilt and shame around there. So we work a lot with that.
Okay.
Whether we want to talk about African, Caribbean, European, everything is different. So you kind of have to be adaptable, right? And be open and just take it. We don't try to force anything on it. We meet people where they're at. And if you like the first meeting, some meetings I don't see people come back for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and they're back and they're like, I just couldn't get what you taught me about the ABCs. I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I'm like,
okay. So it stuck with them. But that's such an important point, Dre, that this meeting people where they are, accepting, and then that different cultures deal with different kinds of verbalizations of problems or acknowledgement of problems. I mean, you would hope that building a community of support, such as Smart Recovery or another pathway, means that eventually people get to consider it a safe space and that they can talk about it and they can say the things that maybe are bringing them great distress or shame or guilt or any of those things. So, because those are, eventually you're going to discover, hopefully, that things like shame and guilt are kind of useless. They're energy drains and they're not really getting you anywhere. It's kind of like jogging in place. You're not really getting anywhere and you're expending a lot of energy. So that's a really important point. And I think it sounds like you and your colleagues there do a good job at recognizing that. What else about your own experience, Dre, do you try to bring on a daily basis to working with others, either as a SMART facilitator or in another role, being in this grassroots kind of work?
I basically I bring my experience, I'm also a father, right? So I look people in their eyes, when we're driving down the street and you may see somebody panhandling and then that person might just drive off. I actually look at the person in their eyes and I see them for who they are, right? And I was once there. So when we say we might know the tools, right? But there's millions of people out there that are saying to themselves, why can't I stop? That's the biggest, out of 90% of my meetings, it's always, I just don't know why I can't stop, And I was there and I couldn't understand it either, and I'm like, this is why SMART is good, because now we can get into the urge surfing. We can get into the negative thoughts, cognitive behavior, DPT, right? We can understand why we're doing these things, then match the thoughts with the actions, right? Change your thought process and change your behavior, right? And then when they slowly see this, they're like, now I get it, right?
And not only understand it intellectually, but have someone right there before them who says, "This is what happened to me." That experience. This is what happened to me, and this is what I did, and here's the result. So, I mean, that's powerful.
I'll give you an example too. Like about 3 weeks ago, I went back to Ontario to see my friends and a funeral. But going back home that is where it all started. And my counselor said to me, she's like, are you going to be prepared? I'm like, as prepared as I ever will be. She said, if you drink, everything that you built will be destroyed. And I said, I know. She's like, remember your SMART tools. I said,
okay. Right.
And I went back to Ontario. And it was romanticizing, because you're like, man, I remember when I used to drink a 40 right here or this and that. But then the tools have made me so strong. People were offering me shots and offering me beer. The Blue Jays were playing. And I was like, no, I'll take a lemon and water. Had that been 4 or 5 years ago without SMART, it'd have been a different story.
Yeah. Okay, so your own experience, even telling people that, there you were, and I imagine in the past, Blue Jays games were an occasion to use alcohol or other substances, and and now you're doing something different.
Yeah, and one thing I always tell people is play the tape forward. Right? It's a big thing for me. You'll feel good for 15 minutes, but then what?
That's right. There you go. And that's a good question. And then we can, have a chance to reflect for ourselves and answer that question, and probably not like the answer because, it ends up in a bad place, a negative place. But Dre, as we start to wrap up here, are there any other thoughts you'd wish to share with our audience about kind of the work you're doing, or things that maybe they should keep in mind if they're on different stages of the change journey?
Well, I would like to say this before I go. For anybody listening, think of whatever substance, whatever it is, whatever your DOC is, think about that time as a child. What brought you joy? When you woke up in the morning, whether it was your parents making breakfast, whether it was being excited to see your best friend at school, whether it was to get ready for Santa Claus the next day for Christmas. Remember those feelings, and remember, sober just means normal, right? becoming normal again. Just go back to as a child and remember you didn't know your DOC before your happiness. So if you're happy at that time, you could be happy again.
Okay, so drawing upon that.
Yes. And I mean, if anyone wants to check out healthyalignedliving.com, where you can check us out there at the website. We've got social media there. We're growing pretty big. We have more facilitators that are training. I'm training right now with the online courses coming out of our platform. And Alberta will have more classes, in-person classes in Alberta very soon. But I'd just like to say, everyone, thank you for tuning in. And just remember, play the tape forward. And remember those feelings as a child and how happy you were.
Excellent. That's great advice. And I really appreciate you coming on here today, Dre. We've been talking with Dre Richards. He's a Smart Recovery Facilitator in Edmonton, Alberta. He's also the co-founder of Healthy Aligned Living. And I'll put a link there in the description of the podcast when it gets posted. And they are a nonprofit focused on youth empowerment and support for individuals impacted by mental health and addiction issues. You've been listening to Smart Recovery Podcast. I'm Luke Frazier. Until next time on the program, stay healthy and stay connected.